Good evening, everyone,
Good evening.
and welcome to the Wednesday, October 7th work session board meeting. At this time, excuse me, I'd like to wish everybody a happy Wednesday. Hope you've had a great week. It's good to see everyone's smiling faces. We're going to open the meeting with a roll call. Dr. Rock, can you give us the roll call, please, sir?
Yes, Mrs. Gator,
Here.
Mrs. Moomin,
Here.
Mr. Roberts,
Here.
Mr. Freeman,
Here.
Miss Mitchell.
Here, we are all present. At this time, Ray, will you please recite the Pledge of Allegiance?
Yes, Madam Chair, if everybody ready. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and, am I back on?
Yeah, you're there.
Okay. And to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We are now at item 1.3. And we need an approval of tonight's agenda. However, before we get started, I do want to ask Dr. Rock and Mr. Jolly, are there any additions or deletions from tonight's agenda?
No, ma'am.
No.
There's no additions or deletions from tonight's agenda.
All right, board, any deletions or additions for you?
No.
All right.
No.
With that, then may I have a motion on the floor to approve tonight's agenda?
Madam Chair, I move that we approve 1.3, approval of the agenda for the work session board, October 7, 2020.
Thank you. May I have a second?
A second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Dr. Rock, can you please call the roll?
Mrs. Moomin,
Yes.
Mr. Roberts,
Yes.
Mrs. Gator,
Yes.
Mr. Freeman,
Yes.
Miss Mitchell.
Yes, motion passes 5-0. Mr. Jolly, did you receive any emails since our last meeting that we need to read for public participation?
No, ma'am. I have not received any emails since our last meeting for public participation.
Awesome. Then we will go to item number 2 on our agenda.
There's
Dr.
nothing.
Rock, okay, I didn't think there was one. So we're going to go straight to item 3, 3.1, the resolution regarding the commencement of in-person instruction for students in grades 1 through 3. May I have a motion on the floor so that we can take this resolution to discussion?
Madam Chair, I move the consent superintendent's recommendation and presentation for personnel and programs. I'm looking for item 3.1, the resolution, commencement of in-person instruction for grades 1 to 3.
May I have a second?
A second.
Thank you, both of you. It's been moved and properly seconded. Excuse me. At this point in time, we'd like to entertain any conversation. Mr. Jolly, we'll start off with you.
Yes, I would like the board to consider this resolution to bring back grades 1 to 3. This is part of our phased approach to bring back our students to in-person school. We've already brought back our pre-K, we brought back our kindergarten, and we've had a lot of success with this hybrid model. Class sizes under 10. Our kids have wear their masks, they're engaged in learning, and it's a great opportunity for us to bring our students back. We have monitored the Colga County Health Department. We will continue to monitor that. In the event that the state or things get out of hand, we have the option to go back to the remote model. But a lot of districts are moving back and bringing kids back throughout the east side, the west side, and throughout the state. Our approach is a phased approach because we want to perfect our methods. We want to make sure everybody's comfortable, and we want to start with our youngest students because they are in the most need. To think about a kindergarten kindergartners starting school who don't even know their letters, and they have to learn on a computer. And then we have first graders who ended their school year in March, who didn't get the whole kindergarten curriculum. And I commend our parents for the work that they did in helping us. But we believe that bringing them back at this time is the best for our students and for our district. Just to go over the numbers of how many students are coming back, so everyone's aware. In first grade, we have 91 out of 150 students who've elected to come back. That's 61%. The class sizes are between 8 and 10 in first grade. In second grade, we have 68 out of 117 that are coming back, which is 58% of the grade level. And again, no class size in second grade is over 10%, over 10 students, I'm sorry. And then in third grade, we have 83 out of 132, which is 63%. And there are either 10 or less per class. We will do the hybrid model, which will be Monday and Wednesday, or Tuesday and Thursday. The city is broken up by Green Road. We try to be as consistent as we can to keep kids and neighborhoods together because they play together anyway. There are a couple of exceptions to keep the numbers down. These are people who have elected to not use our transportation. And we have to make a couple of changes so that we can keep the class sizes equal. So there's a couple alterations to the plan due to trying to get class sizes equal in transportation. Our transportation team is ready to go. The routes will be distributed once, if given board approval, we'll start to inform parents of when the buses are coming. Again, all of this is subject to change based on information from the Colgan County Board of Health. But at this time, we believe it's the right recommendation to bring to the board. I'm open to any questions.
Are there any questions?
Madam Chair, I do have a question. Superintendent Jolly, I know when we first put this together for the COVID-19 with Dr. Reynolds, my only question is, one, is how is it going with the pre-K and kindergarten now? How's that going and going into the second week of that? How's that going?
Yeah, so we haven't had any issues with our pre-K or kindergarten at all with students not following directions and not wearing masks. Again, the young scholars are very happy to be there, and our staff has been very happy to have them. So we haven't had any issues at all with our pre-K or kindergarten. We also have special needs students that have been in school, and we haven't had any issues with them. And also we've had our career tech. So our students who have been attending school have been compliant to the rules. And for the most part, it's been a great experience for all.
And my last question is the actual cleaning daily. How is that taken care of? I know Mr. McDonald does a great job at his staff.
So outside of every room, we have daily logs of when the classes get cleaned. So our custodians have to clean the classes regularly, and they're logging it outside of the room. You can go outside of the room and you will see the list outside of the room. They're spraying. We have those electrostatic sprayers that are spraying rooms on a consistent basis. Our buses have sprayers, so they will be, after each route, spraying our buses. We do have a halo purifiers in every school, which puts ultraviolet rays to kill viruses. So the cleanliness part, and Mr. McDonald and his team have done great. At this point, I would say a good job, because we haven't had a lot of complaints about the cleanliness or the prompt cleaning of the buildings as of today. But as kids come back, as they say, everyone has to level up and go to a whole nother level than now, because right now it's mainly adults in buildings. And when you add children, the level of cleanliness will have to increase.
I do have one question, Mr. Jolly. How are our buildings going to accommodate the air purification process?
So that's already in the system already. Before school started. We have that
Okay,
installed
good.
in all these
Okay.
buildings. So it's part of the HVAC system of the buildings. That was
Okay.
done in August before the teachers came. We wanted to make sure that we had those in place before the teachers came back to school.
Okay. Board, are
Also,
there any?
yeah, I
was
just
gonna
want to, Mr. Jolly, I like how you guys set it up. I like the distance. I like the plexiglass around each desk. The children do look like they're engaged, but I want to thank you for that and your actual staff, the cleaning staff.
Yeah, and I would say Dr. Reynolds is really that his nickname is Dr. COVID in the district because his job has been, to make sure that we are following the rules, that people are following the guidelines, and that we have all the materials that we need to be successful. And I can say Dr. Reynolds, or better known as Dr. COVID, is on top of it.
Awesome. Are there any other questions, board?
I have one. Mr. Jolly, can you just discuss a little bit more what the protocol is going to be for the transportation, students and staff, in terms of, ensuring that people are COVID-free, I guess you could say.
Right, so our buses do have temperature machines on the bus. So students' temperatures will be taken on the bus. There'll be two people on the bus. Since we broke the district down in half our bus, we're not running all our routes at the same time. So Ms. Callahan has put two drivers on the bus. One is to monitor the temperature as the kids get on the bus, and if they have a temperature. Our first thing is that we hope that the parent is there at the bus stop with them so we can send them home. If the parent is not, then that child will be isolated on the bus and then taken into the building once they get to the school. And we have isolation rooms in the buildings, and then the parents will be called and asked to pick them up. So we have two levels. The first level is on the bus. The first option is that if the parent is with the child, then the child will be sent home at that time if they have a temperature. And if they do have a temperature, no parent, then we will transport them to the building, and then at the building they will be put in isolation. The bus will be cleaned before the other kids get off the bus, wiped down to ensure that there's no transmission at that point.
Okay, all right, thank you. Thank you very much for clarifying.
Thank you, board. Any other questions?
I don't have a question. I just have a comment.
Mhm.
And I just want to say thank you, Mr. Jolly. It seems like everything is in place for the pre-K through third grade. And I'm just happy that we have brought back structure for the children. And hopefully this will be successful.
Yeah, we're actively planning for the rest for 4 to 12, for November 4th.
Mhm.
We have first thought about grades 4 and 5 not coming back till we open the new school.
Okay.
But it's talking to parents, the
Mhm.
need for them to come back is urgent also. So we would like to bring 4 or 5 back November 4th also, and just have them go back to Eastwood.
You said November the 4th?
November the 4th. Our
Oh.
goal is to bring back everybody else November 4th.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And our original plan was the first 9 weeks. So the end of the first 9 weeks is October 30th. So that would be the start of the second market period.
Oh, okay.
And we're planning that. So at our meeting on the 21st, we'll be able to explain how that will look. Because it's a lot more variables with the older kids, a lot more that we have to work through.
That's true.
Okey doke. If that's all the questions, Dr. Rock, can you please call the roll for the vote on 3.1?
Mrs. Gator,
Yes.
Mrs. Moomin,
Yes.
Mr. Roberts,
Yes.
Mr. Freeman,
Yes.
Miss Mitchell.
Yes, motion passes 5-0. Thank you very much, board, and thank you again, Mr. Jolly, to you and your team for the great work that you've done to, continue to be able to bring the children back to school. Next on our agenda is item 3.2. And we need a motion on the floor to approve by consent agenda the superintendent's recommendations and presentations for personnel and programs for our agreement with our parent to provide student services for the 2020-2021 school year.
Madam Chair, I move 3.2 agreement for student settlement for the actual entering the school year 2020 to 2021 school year.
Thank you. May I have a second?
I second.
It's been moved and seconded. We'll open the floor for discussion, but Mr. Jolly, I wanted to go to you first to see if there was anything that you wanted to share here.
Yeah, this settlement was shared with the board in September, late August and early September. It was omitted from our September board meeting. And basically what this agreement is that we had a situation in which we came to an agreement to provide services that we were pretty much providing already, but this agreement just solidifies that the services were what happened.
Board, are there any questions? Hearing none, Dr. Rock, can you please call the roll?
Mrs. Moomin,
Yes.
Mr. Roberts,
Yes.
Mrs. Gator,
Yes.
Mr. Freeman,
Yes.
Ms. Mitchell.
Yes, motion passes 5-0. Thank you. Next on our agenda, excuse me, we're going into our new business. Item 4.1 is 2020 official business.
I think that was going to be for your delegate and
Okay,
Delegate
that's how she
substitution.
titled it. Okay.
yeah, and we already approved that at the organizational meeting.
I thought we set up a delegate already.
Yes,
And
It's
if I'm not
Mrs.
mistaken, the delegate is Mimi, correct?
yes, Mrs. Gator, and then the substitute is Mrs. Moomin.
Okay, I thought and I couldn't recall. So I'm glad, Mimi, that you did bring it up, just so that we could refresh ourselves with who is playing what role. And that information has already been submitted to OSBA, correct, Dr. Rock?
Yes.
Awesome. Then we are going to move into item 4.2. Ray, Mimi, and I had the pleasure of attending CUBE's first virtual conference. It was quite interesting. They found very unique ways to keep us engaged. And so at this point, we're going to do what we normally do, where we, pick our top 3 sessions that we attended, and we are going to take about 3 minutes and we'll give highlights about those sessions, or either the keynote sessions and how they impacted us and how we might be able to bring any recommendations to our district from our learning. Mimi, do you want to kick us off?
Yeah, that's fine. Am I off mute? Yeah. Yes, I will go first. So I attended 2 sessions each day. So there's 2 that I want to talk about, and then I just want to touch on the opening. Probably one of the things that you want to talk about too, Tracy, was the opening remarks from Jacinto. But the first session that I want to talk about was called Stronger on the Other Side, a Board's Considerations for Learning and Crisis Response. It was a really interesting conversation. They talked about how at this time, boards of educations are assessing how well they responded to the COVID crisis. Let me just move this over. Yeah, they discussed how well the boards responded to the crisis. The discussion also touched on things like equity and access concerns. These were all areas that I think we all can agree that our leadership did a really good job at addressing at the beginning of the pandemic. They identified, some of the access issues that our students were having with Wi-Fi. The panel also discussed an equity policy. One of the things that they identified is that, like, for us as a district, where we are a district where a majority of our students are children of color or live in poverty. So they said, you know, for us, equity is slightly different. You know, we have to consider members of other student demographics who historically struggle, such as students who are homeless or maybe in foster care. The other thing that they did is they shared some tips on things that we should consider to address. Some of the things that they suggested was to ensure that our board meetings set expectations that allow for monitoring of student progress. The concern was, with everything that happened so quickly with the pandemic, how do we know how well our students are doing? So they encourage us to start asking for data and be prepared to ask the difficult questions. Questions like, what are we doing to ensure all of our students are being assessed? What are we doing? What evidence can we rely on to see if students are learning? When can we get the data? And just make sure that our policy indicates what we want our outcomes to be. One of the moderators was a gentleman by the name of AJ Crable. Mr. Jolly, I'm not sure if you're familiar with him. Ray, you might have heard of him too. He is, he's the director of governance for Great City Schools. He gave really, his insight on equity and race was just really refreshing. The other thing that they talked about is the fact that we are in crisis mode, and for boards of educations to remember that what's happening right now with the pandemic in terms of transportation issues, feeding students, reopening schools is part of the day-to-day operations. And what they suggested is that we look at our goals and we continue to look at improving for the future. You know, I asked them about our strategic plan, and they said, you know, it's fine to put it on hold for now, but not to put it on hold for too long, because that is what we do. We plan to make things better. And then they finished up just by stating, you know, that this is a juggling act, but they reminded us that learning is not just a priority. They said it's the priority. So I thought that was pretty powerful, just that statement alone, because it is the priority right now. You know, you hear Barbara talk about it all the time, about how we've got to get the students back in the classroom. So I think that what this particular session showed me is that we are doing things the right way. I would just say that, you know, at some point we might want to have some discussions about looking at the data and just really kind of understanding how this is impacting our students. The other one that I'd like to just briefly touch on is what's called Dismantling Instructional Racism in a Large Urban District. So the moderators were all from the Fort Worth Independent School District, which, by the way, is the district that the Cube Chair is from, Jacinto Ramos. And I'm just going to touch on him for a second and the opening general session that we had. He started the conference off with straight up real talk on equity, race, and the turmoil that we're seeing in this country. He gave us a history lesson, he preached, and in my opinion, it was probably one of the best openings I've seen in years at CUBE. The message that he gave was very unapologetic, but it's because he spoke the truth. I remember Tracy and I were texting back and forth, and at one point he said something about this being woke work, and that was like the new hashtag for Twitter. But he was a really good speaker. So again, this particular session is from the Fort Worth Independent School District, and what they talked about was some of the things that they're doing to ensure instructional equity amongst their professional staff. The one thing that they touched on is something that they do called instructional equity walks. And I found the concept of equity walks to be interesting. It's basically when district leadership is walking through the school to ensure that the instruction is equitable, exactly what it's called. They're looking for interactions with students, public spaces, literature on walls, differential instructions, And they take all of this information so that they can provide the type of instructional support that's needed to help the students be successful. Not all of the sessions that I took had something to kind of take away. Some of them, they were more so selling a product. But overall, I thought that this was a really good conference, considering it was the first time that we had to do it virtually. So I enjoyed it, and I'm actually looking forward to doing a virtual conference with Capital Conference too.
Right. Thank you, Mimi. I do want to remind us, we're going to try to very hard to stick to our 3 minutes.
Sorry.
That's okay. I didn't want to cut you off, but we will abide by it. Ray, you go ahead.
I want to just thank this board for allowing me to be a steering committee member. As all of you guys know, I was reelected for another 3 years with the NSBA and CUBE steering committee. I'm one of the two, probably the longest serving members other than Jacinto, or we just call Mimi Cinto. I thought Cinto did a great job. We've had numerous meetings, like 3 meetings a month to prepare for this virtual conference. I think it went well with the actual return of Tom Gensel, our National School Board CEO. He retired in June, and they did a search, and we actually got a young lady. She's from the Girl Scouts of America, and her name's Anna Marie Chavez. Anna Marie comes from Arizona, and she wanted the opportunity to actually be, the CEO of the National School Board Association. So we have met her. She's in her 3rd month, almost 4 months with the organization. But I thought, all in all, it was a very good conference. I had seen the presentation from Cinto and others, other steering committee, but the 2 that I looked at that actually captured me, and I was jumping from, when I was texting you, Tracy, I was jumping from session to session, but it was the woman of leadership. Last year in 2019, at the CUBE annual in Miami, we had 4 different board presidents that were female that took on and gave some insight on their role. And Tracy, maybe you can do it next year, but it gave some insight of what they go through being a female in an urban district, being a board president. So when we did that, Virginia Jacobs took it along with Cinto, me, and Makai, and we said, why don't we do that in a virtual session? So that's what they did, but it was really good because those women, they spoke it. They told what's going on in their urban districts and how hard it is, because some people don't give women the actual respect they need as a board president. So I thought that was a very good session that they prepared. The next one was with my actual new CUBE member, Ty G. Jones. He's actually with the Lancaster, Texas Board of Trustees, along with Don Miller. So back in August of this year, Texas did a COVID-19 learning session. So it was Ty and about 2 different pastors and some of the other local urban districts. And what they talked about in August was, how are we going to educate the kids, like Barbara said, in this COVID atmosphere. So it was a good session to hear everybody input, my input and everybody else, even though I'm not from Texas. But they took that together and then they came up with equity and inclusion. And what they came up with the equity inclusion is that you have to release your racial bias. And many urban districts, and many of you didn't go to the actual equity symposium, but they had 2 Caucasian educators spoke to it. They came up on stage and they said, hey, I was prejudiced for 19 years. They didn't give our Black and brown boys and girls the actual treatment that they treated the other students in Seattle, Washington, and the other ones, I think, in Texas. So one thing about Cinto, he's unapologetic. He's got that courageous conversation, and he's going to put people in a category from 1 to 5. So if you're down with the Black and brown educating, you might be a 5. But if you're a 1 and you don't care and you just care about Caucasian children, yeah, he's going to rate you. But he did a great job breaking it down. And he's also trying to get his doctorate degree in Texas Christian University. So, I mean, we've had these good conversations with him monthly, but yeah, he blew it out the water this time. And unfortunately, his term will be up in April of next year. So when we go to the national, if we do have it in New Orleans, we'll have a new CUBE steering chair. But all in all, it was decent for what we did. So thank you. Yeah.
Thank the both of you. I too was in that equity and inclusion. It all begins with releasing cultural biases. That was a really powerful session.
Mhm.
The second one that I went to that day was the workforce impact ready to work. And I was curious to see how they manage their career tech programs and certification programs. And I was very pleased to note and was able to contribute that while we are a small district, we've been very smart and nimble in how we have gone to market in partnership with our co-op with the other schools in our area to build out our CTE program. The only difference with this district, it was the Garland Independent School District. They have the funds because they are a huge district, and they were able to build a career tech academy, very similar to the one that we saw a couple of years ago down in New Orleans when we went on that tour.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because all of the sessions that I attended, everything still synced back up with equity in some shape, form, or fashion.
Yeah.
A lot of the inequities that were talked about in this year's conference all linked up to, again, those socioeconomic struggles. It also focused very heavily on children dealing with trauma outside of trauma, what we normally expect trauma to be, and how the districts responded to this pandemic, because that created inequities. It brought forth inequities in many instances that even Caucasian districts had not thought of, especially in your rural areas where Wi-Fi is a huge struggle. So I was very happy to hear in all of the classes that I went to that what we're doing here in Warrensville is really stand out. We have really raised the bar, even though we're a small district, but when it comes to STEM, I went to Equity in Action, Building a Culture of STEAM. We're doing that work already. When another class that I went to and I was sharing with Mr. Jolly, virtual education, are your students engaging in learning? Mimi, to your point, it was a business selling their proprietary tool, but we have Illuminate. And our educators are using Illuminate to ensure our kids are staying engaged. And they too talked about making sure that we as board members either build time into our board meetings or ask our superintendent to provide us with some type of monthly, quarterly report. I would say monthly now because of the situation, helping us better understand what engagement is, how many kids are logging on, what the grades are looking like. And Mr. Jolly has been providing us with that those updates, especially regarding attendance, because that was one of the things that this company talked about. How are we as school districts ensuring that children are logging on and attending class? Ray, I will ask though, is there a way that you can find out where and how we can get those decks? Because I even went back into the link earlier this week and there was still no decks in the resource center.
No, I looked on it too. They are available. When I talked to Virginia Jacobs, our equity chief, if you and Mimi give me a list, I can get those decks.
Okay, I can get you the list of my classes.
Thank you.
So I do want to thank everybody. I know Mimi, we were chatting back and forth, even though we studiously took different classes so that we could bring back what we felt was a more holistic view. But when I really went back over my notes and I printed out the classes that I went to, I have to say our district is doing a really great job answering all the needs of our students, our educators, and our community at large. So thank you, Mr. Jolly, to you and your team for the great work that you guys are doing. At that, we are going to move to item
Madam Chair, can I say something, just what you said and piggyback off of that?
Quick.
Yeah, I was just saying that we're the smallest district represented on national stage with CUBE. And I mean, everybody knows the board members now. They know them. They're right. Ain't that your board members? So we're doing the work, even though, Mr. Jolly doing the work in the school, but I mean, outside the board is recognized on a national level. And I just want to state that.
Thank you for sharing that, because I tend to forget that we are the smallest district in Cube,
Ever.
because we're doing mighty work. We really are. Mr. Jolly, I'm going to hand it back over to you for item 4.3.
Yes, I would kind of like, because my 4.3 is kind of tied to 4.5, if we could have Steve and Sean to share a phase 2 update, and then I'll connect 4.3 and 4.5 together.
Works for us.
Okay, well, I'll get us started. First of all, I want to thank the board and Don and Mike Rock for today. Before I get into the phase 2, I want to give you a construction update. As you're all aware, we're very close to completion for the new elementary school. And boy, I'm really looking forward to the day when we can have some students in there. And I was really pleased at now that you're having in-person classes. As soon as we can get those students in there. I also want to, as you know, that was a great project. And the reason it was great, I want to thank all of you as board members and the board in total for the support that you've given us through the process. Even Sean can even comment on this. You were always there for us when we needed your support to get issues resolved, to get change orders done. I've never worked with a board that's really has been this engaged and really has bent over backwards to help us move this project along. And we're really pleased. The project came in under budget, so we're very, very pleased. And I again want to thank all of you. I also want to thank Don Jolly and also Mike Rock for their support on this first phase. So we're almost at the end of the first phase, and we're now in phase 2. And the reason I wanted to speak with you, as you know, we have started the site work, which you approved the GMP about a little over, maybe about a month ago. And if you've been on the site or driven by the site, you can see there's considerable work happening. The purpose of that work is to get the site prepared for the construction and to build the pad. And like all projects, there's always issues when it comes to underground, just like we had, not as serious, but we have some issues of underground soils that are unsuitable. And what we mean by that, it's not that they're bad soils or there are issues with what's in those soils. It is that there are a lot of organic matter, which means that there are a lot of leaves, things like that. And you really can't build on unsuitable soils because it would cause issues of what we call differential settlement. Where actually one part of the building would settle differently than the other, or it might be under a slab in the building on the first floor and would cause considerable, not just cracking, that happens, but where it would settle differently from the other. And Sean and his team have discovered that there are unsuitable soils under the pad where we're going to build the building. And so we're required as part of our process, and we had the same issue with the other building, to remove those soils and replace them with soils that can be built upon. Looking at that, we had an analysis done, and we have looked at the amount of soils, and I'll have Sean go into the details, but there is a high percentage that needs to be removed. We already have started that process, and we are discovering that we're actually removing what we've done so far, not a lot. We're discovering we don't have to remove as much of what we expected. And maybe, Sean, you could kind of walk us through, and then I'll go through some of the numbers of what we might see some costs to be. The reason we're telling you this today is we don't need a decision from you, but eventually we will have a change order for this. This is normal. We use contingency funds, and also I'm pleased to tell you that our bids came in lower than our GMP, so we have extra funds there. We don't see this as a problem, but we wanted to make you aware of this well ahead of time, so if there's any questions from the community why we're removing soils, you'll be able to answer it. And maybe, Sean, can you walk us through in a little more detail what the areas are and what we're looking at in terms of removal and approximate amounts?
I would love to. Hello, board. Once again, it's an honor to present to you and to be working with you as we finish PK through 5 and start up the middle school, high school project. Very exciting. As Steve indicated, these are conditions that happen in Northern Ohio. Our soils are the northern shores based on what the glaciers gave us centuries ago. The soils aren't always buildable upon, and we work very closely with the civil engineer and his team. So Moody Engineering and Terracon, which does the soils analysis. So we're not working in, a vacuum on this. We have expertise in this, but at the end of the day, we count on the engineers to provide us guidance on what extent of unsuitables we should remove. At the end of the day, as Steve described, this is a very important component of the project. You want to ensure you have a surface that you can build on. And I'm very adamant to ensure that we make that happen so we don't have issues as we start to build the structure. So with that, we brought out Terracon is on site. They are the soils engineer working through Moody Engineering, who does the civil work. And we do a proof roll, and we found very poor soils on probably half the building pad. And so we, in conjunction with Terracon, developed a plan of what we had to remove, guess at what levels we have to move those, develop, as Steve will go into, a budget or a magnitude of cost. And then we monitor that on a daily basis while we're performing that work. I can gladly say at this point, as of tomorrow, we will finish the remedial work that we need to do with removals and bringing in of engineered fill and compaction. I will be under the numbers I presented, not dramatically, but I will be under the numbers that I have presented. And we're in the process of finalizing that work, because it's key to us. What we're trying to accomplish at this point is we want to get the building pad done. And our goal is by the end of October. And I won't go too far, what I call into the weeds, but we're going to cement stabilize this building pad, which will provide us a very workable surface so that when we start work in late March, early April of 21, we all know what happens in Northern Ohio. Usually rains, and conditions are real tough to start work. But by doing this, we'll be able to work on this building pad even after a rainstorm, similar to what we did on PK through 5. And frankly, it saved us time and money long run in regards to that. So with this work being complete, we can begin our backfill operations. And we have to bring in somewhere between 4 inches to 18 inches of soils and compact those, and then get the pad ready so that we can cement stabilize it. So this was an important phase to get resolved, and we're very close to resolving that. And I can say with confidence that the magnitude of cost, Steve, that I did provide to you and the Don, we should be under that. And
I'd like to go over that. We were looking at a maximum cost, and that was based on an estimate of how much soils we would have to remove. And it was a worst case scenario, which was $250,000, which obviously is a big number, but it is looking at the unit costs that we had pre-established with the trade contractors and the sheer volume that we were looking at removing. I think at that time, how much was that? About 50% of the
building pad.
The
so
building pad.
I have about 7,000 tons of soils that I'm bringing in and out of this project. So it's a significant amount. It is a large area. I will give you that.
And this building pad is more than twice the size of what we had for the elementary. It's just a bigger building to begin with. But as Sean has explained, the way we've been tracking this is we've been tracking this on a daily basis, and it's not that it's super easy, but it is easy because we can see what volume is being taken out, and that's how our costs are established and what volume is brought back. And so that volume was, we were looking at things like 12 to 18 inches. We're more closer to in the 12 range and plus. And so it will be less than 250,000, but it will be a number. We still are putting together those totals. We will come back to you as a board to ask for your approval. Now, how are we paying for this? Well, we have a contingency for this very purpose. When we pre-established the original project budget, we did put in additional costs in our contingency for this very reason, because of our experience over across the street with unsuitable soils at the other project. So this will not be a cost increase to the project. It's all doable within the confines of the budgets that we have today. And Sean, do you have anything else to add? I don't.
No, you know, overall, we're moving. We're making great progress, trying to beat the fall conditions and the temperature drops and the precipitation that will come at some time in the near future. So, but everything is going very smoothly out there in regards to this first phase. And as Steve described, this is very important to us to complete, because it puts in place all our site logistics so that when we start in March, April, we're digging. I'm wondering, you know, I like to be digging first day and putting concrete in the ground. So, you know, and that's going to be our objective as we go forward. So we're off to a good start. The only other item that I'd like to bring up is that, and Don, we were talking about this and just made for the board, is that we're going to have a groundbreaking ceremony that you wanted to have on October 17th. And I just, I know you talked to Anthony Soriano and you want some real basic things set up, but I'd like to just review with you and maybe Steve, just anything that the board would like to see in conjunction, that trying to put this together just based on today's conditions that we're all living in, and provide the best approach to provide something that'll be good for the community as we move forward with this project. So any comments that the board might have, or yourself, Don, I'm open to help prepare, as that's in a couple weeks here. As I'll blink and it'll be here.
Yeah, we talked about not having a tent because we didn't want people inside of a tent, because that will defeat the whole social distancing. Kind of trying to keep everybody spread out as possible. I don't know the exact area that Anthony picked out, but I will get with him soon so we can exactly figure out where the area is. But we do plan to have a microphone, a podium, you know, so a couple of words from community members and mayors, and really just a nice photo opportunity for the board. You know, it's similar to what we did before, but we have food and things before. I don't think we're gonna have food here. We're just gonna make it real basic. Just, you know, everybody come outside, we, you know, the speeches, and then we do the shovel and everybody go and take pictures. That's the way I see it, and making it as socially distanced as possible.
Mr. Jolly, Sean and Steve, I would ask, because due to the environment that we're living right now, can we, if it is no extra cost, have it videoed at minimum so that it can run on the district website, so that those members who are not able to attend can at least see the ceremony? I'm not sure what it would be like to live stream it, because we know that the Wi-Fi gets a little iffy outside, but if we can video it.
To ask Savannah, Miss Heck, if she could do a Facebook Live of it, or Jonathan. We did it with the basketball game last year. I don't think that should be an obstacle at all.
Yeah, I agree. We should be able to do that easily. I know videoing, taping it, we might be able to do Facebook Live. It's harder on YouTube, but
Right.
we could have that, then place that on the site so then people can look at it at the video.
Yeah, I think that's quite possible. We'll start working on that tomorrow.
Thank you.
And Don, coordinate with myself. I have Anthony extremely busy on the PK through 5, so I will gladly work with you on setting up the ceremony so I can keep him focused on wrapping up what we need to do on that project.
Okay.
So, and I can get probably you, Jonathan, and I can maybe put heads together and walk it a little bit and then sort of lay out some thoughts there and then get it implemented.
Okay.
And
Ask how long do we anticipate this taking, the ceremony itself?
I'd say less than a half hour or less.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't see a half hour. I mean, we're gonna ask the speakers to do 2 minutes or less. We got 4 speakers. I know they might do longer, but 4 speakers, let's say 3 minutes apiece. That's 15 minutes, and then the rest is just shoveling this, the photos, and that's it. Yeah.
And then maybe we should ask Moody Nolan a rendering. Maybe we should try and put up some type of rendering of the project.
That's good.
I got some. Maybe we can get an updated one, but I do have the last renderings that we will have visible there also.
I would say Steve and Don in our core meeting tomorrow
Yes.
with the state and the architect, have that on the agenda, and we'll walk through that.
Good.
Yep.
I do have a question for you, Sean. Sean,
Yes.
as far as when they did the soil samples, what did they find anything else?
No, I didn't find anything, out of the norm. They were just soils that were unsuitable for bearing. And it was a significant area, but nothing out of the norm, Ray, that I would expect. So I didn't find Jimmy Hoffa, if you were thinking. So
Hey, Sean, and I was curious, when you guys met with the city of Warrensville Heights, how far are you taking that building pad over? Is it going to that little toll road or no, on the east side?
The building pad is, I think, 80 feet off of that, plus or minus. I don't have the exact dimension right now, but I am following the revised and approved layout that council and approved. So we're laying it out in that accordance, Ray.
And last question, Sean, as far as I know, you guys put the pad to come off of Warrensville Center Road. It's fine. You can bring trucks on there. What about the road? When will that road be in for your crew can come in off of Warrensville Center Road?
Well, what I'm doing there, Ray, is you can almost land an airplane on it the way we're going to build this thing. But the intent is that it will be cement stabilized, and I'm going to do 1s and 2 stone off of it the complete way. It's over 1,000 feet long from Warrensville to the building pad. And I have to think things through from every trade. And probably the biggest component is my structural steel deliveries. And on my girder trusses for the gymnasium, those trucks, flatbeds will be with extensions 62 feet long. So we created the radiuses, so we'll drive in off of Warrensville. We will be able to turn around on the site and then face out on Warrensville. So it'll be a 2-way traffic. So all construction traffic will be onto Warrensville Road, on and off, and it'll make it easy. Warrensville Road will be our primary focus to get the 480 as a main artery for material deliveries, concrete, steel, and all materials basically as we go through the process. So right now we are utilizing the road that's on the south of the property, but I got to build my road first. So I need to, in conjunction, and luckily, with school being partially in and, mostly remote, that we're able to work that, early and late in the day where we minimize any traffic that impacts the school operation. But after November, and once we start on the building, everything will come off of that Warrensville Road. We put the concrete apron in already. That was the
Yep.
first thing we did.
Yep.
And my intent is that has to hold up for 16, 18 months. And we did it similarly on PK5 and it worked great. So doing the same thing, Ray.
Okay, thanks, Sean.
Right, board, is there anything else? If not, Mr. Jolly, we turn it back to you so you can take care of 4.3 and 4.5.
Yeah, so I just wanted to get a board an update on some conversations we need to have relatively soon in reference to our master facilities. As you know, the baseball fields are gone and we have nowhere to play baseball. So at this point, Mr. Swift and Lester have looked at our properties and they've made a recommendation that we construct temporary baseball fields at Westwood and at John Dewey. John Dewey already has a field that just needs some sprucing up. At John Dewey, the middle school and high school baseball teams will practice. And then at Westwood, which also has a field in the back, they also looked at the conditions of the grass, like if it's flat land, and then all of them have baseball fields, but Westwood is more flat than Eastwood. So to put softball fields at Westwood. So I will be coming with some numbers on how that would look so that we will have some type of home baseball field. The city doesn't have anywhere to play baseball and we don't have a park in the city or anywhere. So we have to use Westwood and Eastwood for those purposes. I'm an opening question about that, but we're thinking ahead because the work will have to be done in the fall so that they're ready for the spring. We do not want to invest a whole lot of money, but just enough money so that our kids can have somewhere to play in the city. Any questions about that?
I don't have any questions. I think it's a great idea using our facilities versus having to go out and partner with another district, potentially paying fees to use their ball diamonds.
All right, the next item is the Board of Education. So in learning from the experience from Randallwood, even though I wasn't here, many of us weren't here. I don't think anybody was here when Randallwood closed. Preparing it for whatever happens next, that conversation. So what I wanted to do tonight is ask the board for permission to begin the process of finding a company to liquidate the things inside, sort of like we did with Randallwood when we had an auction for all the furniture and so forth. It's my thought that we have it cleaned out by the spring, and you know, over the winter, the board starts to make decisions on what they want to do with the property. Do we want to sell it? Do we want to tear it down, and so forth? But at least the property be in condition and prepare for whatever the next decisions are. So I wanted to bring that to your attention because I wanted to start that process immediately of getting the information needed so that we can start getting it cleaned up and ready for its next mission. Any questions about that?
Just can you clarify, are you saying this would happen in the spring or you're going to start it now?
I would like to, we probably need a few more months to figure out where some records and things gonna go. So I would say in the winter, maybe January, February. So we can get everything we need out of there and determine where we're gonna put storage and things. But at least start getting prices on how much it costs. And I can bring that back to the board before any formal decision is made.
Thank you.
All right, the next item is the bus garage. So just overarching thing is that we want to get our kids out the middle school at the end of this year so that we can expedite the building plan, so that it's not an additional year on the plan, that we, right now where the prices are good, while we can, while we have the construction company here, we can almost complete the entire building project at the same time. So if the middle school goes next year and they can demolish the middle school next year, and the bus garage. That gives us a year on the project. With us having these 3 buildings available that we'll be leaving out of in December, it's a great opportunity for us to put our middle school into those buildings for 1 year. So 6th grade in one building, 7th, 8th grade in another building, or whatever different configuration. So I just want to put out some deadlines that some arbitrary deadlines, because if it doesn't happen, but we're gonna work very hard to try to have a location of a bus garage by June of 2020. We need the buses and a bus garage by June of 2020, because that process, if the middle school is empty and then the bus garage is full, it kind of defeats the purpose of what we're trying to do. So we need a bus garage by June 20th. So we are exploring and looking at a variety of options, and I pray that we have something to the board before the end of the year. I would say before the end of the year, some kind of preliminary thoughts on where a bus garage could go, or where we could do with a bus garage. Of course, we do have the money to build a bus garage. It is in the budget, but if we can explore another option, it would expedite the process, because even if we build it, we still gonna have to keep it up until it's gonna put us a year behind, because we don't have anywhere to put the buses. So I want to make sure everybody understand what I'm saying and clear. If we need to move the buses in the middle school in order to get a year on this project, if either one remains, we didn't execute that, taking the year off the project. Because if we don't have buses, we don't have nowhere the buses go, then it's going to prolong the project. And if we don't use the elementary schools and keep the middle school, it's going to prolong the project. So the goal is to have somewhere a bus garage, or have somewhere for the buses by June, and then work on the process of the middle school by June. So any questions to that? And then the final thing is the closing of the middle school in June of 2020. My initial thoughts with that is that since we are using Westwood and John Dewey, and we have a tenant in Westwood, that we use Westwood and John Dewey for the middle school. So I propose that we use Westwood for the 6th grade, and it would just take moving furniture from Eastwood to Westwood, and that we use John Dewey. John Dewey is the bigger school. It's the bigger school. It's the biggest school that we have in elementary. It's over 24 classrooms, which can easily accommodate 6th and 7th grade. 7th and 8th grade that we put on the 7th and 8th grade at John Dewey. Now that is the first thought about it. I will flesh it out with the team and everybody else. But if we're going to invest in Westwood, we might as well put some kids at Westwood in June of 21. I'm sorry, I'm saying 2020, 2020 passed. In June of 21.
We know.
So with that, and if there's a plan, if I can fully vet it and get it to you guys, we would need to start having conversations about Eastwood too in the fall, in the spring. In the winter too, about what happens to Eastwood. So I wanted to tee all of this up for the board, because we were supposed to have these conversations in March of 2020. We had the community meetings in place, but in thinking this through, it gives us an additional year to determine what happens to the other 2 buildings, John Dewey and Westwood, but put Eastwood in the Board of Education clearly in front of us to make some decisions on what happens to them. So with that, I'm open to any questions, but I just wanted to put it out there, because these are things that I would like for us to continue to discuss, and so that I can get direction on exactly how to execute this very adventurous plan that we have to do. My concern is leaving those buildings empty. We saw what happened to Randallwood. We saw what happened actually to Westwood. We saw what happened to the library, and I don't think this board wants to contribute to eyesores or liabilities for us as a district or for the community. So my plan is to, when they empty or start to become empty, that we have a plan to liquidate, rent, or whatever the options are, that we execute immediately as soon as the opportunity provides itself.
So Mr. Jolly, I want to make sure I'm understanding. So you're right now, you're just asking us if we are going to say, yep, it's good for you to go on, move forward, and start outlining options for us to review with potential opportunities, potential cost, potential savings.
Right.
And when would you be ready to bring that back to us if we say, yep, go forth and get busy?
So we you know, I'm doing the research now. We're starting to you know, gather information at this point.
Mhm.
What I'm looking for tonight is just a go ahead about the board to start to look at the board liquidation. And that's the desks and all the materials inside of the board to get the board prepared for a possible transaction or whatever might happen with it, or demolition. And then probably once finalize the middle school plan, I'll ask the same for the middle school. Once that plan, or not, we're gonna have to do the same for the middle school to get rid of the materials, and you know, some of the materials inside of the middle school. And then we're gonna have to do the same for Eastwood.
Right.
Or whatever school we determine, but whatever school will not house students. Or, you know, the recommendation might be to use all three and separate all the students. I don't think that's wise to do. To have one grade at one school, one grade at another school, and another grade at another school, because we share teachers. They have the same teachers, and teachers have to travel. So it'd be in the best interest to keep them at two schools, so the teachers would just have to travel one time, not 2 times in a day.
So Dr. Rock, do we need, excuse me, if I may, do we have to put a motion on the floor to vote to approve, or we're just able to say, go ahead?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead. I'm
And,
sorry.
and the ultimate goal of all of these moving pieces, the ultimate goal is to get our scholars into the new buildings as soon as possible. That's the end game right there. So that's where we're trying to work on all these moving pieces.
Okay,
Madam Chair, I do have a question.
go ahead.
Steve, you still on the phone, Steve?
Yes, I am. Thank you.
So when we did the master plan and when we looked at this in 2016, to my understanding, when they did an evaluation on all of our buildings, is it language in the OFCC that we have to demo those 3 buildings?
We don't have to demo them, but here's the question. If we don't demo them, we have to take care of them. We don't have a scheduled date for demolition. So if we were to use those buildings as an interim, let's say,
Exactly. Yeah.
we have no problem doing that. That's not an issue. We still get our money from the state, their share of the demolition. We just do it at a later time.
Right.
That's exactly what I wanted. You answered my questions.
So we'll be vacating those buildings before the project is over.
Right. And
Right.
those building demos are actually part of segment 2, not segment 1 money. So we have till the very, very end before we have to do that. So we can use them for other uses as an interim, which I think Don is on a good direction, because this, you know, as you can see, this would finish our project 6 to 9 months earlier than what was originally anticipated.
And it would also save us money because we wouldn't have to fabricate temporary housing for those grades.
That's correct.
Yeah.
That's correct.
Exactly.
Superintendent Jolly, I know we had got a actual appraisal on that building, and I thought it was 360 in 2015. Am I mistaken?
It was around that. That was it. It was mainly for the land, though. I think the land was the most valuable part of that appraisal.
Okay.
So what I would ask, though, is that we engage Jason from Retzel, who helped us with the Board of Education negotiations.
Right.
we've used for our real estate, that we engage him to help us work through the options of the Board of Education and all of our real estate.
I would say
Okay.
that's a good idea. He's done a great job by us so far, an excellent job, really.
Thank you, guys.
And he already knows the story.
Correct.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
has all the variables.
Mr. Jolly, so are we saying that the plan is to have the middle school students to go to Eastwood, John Dewey and Westwood this school year?
No, ma'am.
It would be
For the
next year.
Yeah, for the 21-22 school year.
All right, so when we phase them back in this year, they'll be going back to the middle school.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
And then they'll start 21-22 at the elementary schools. And then, preferably, if no delays in the project, in the high school project, they'll start the 22-23 school year in the new school. So it'll just be 1 year in the elementary schools.
It's not bad. So board, are we, it feels like we're in agreement to go ahead and ask Mr. Jolly, Dr. Rock to move forward and begin to put the plans in place so we can review?
Yes.
Yes,
I'm seeing
Madam
a
Chair.
lot of affirmative head nods.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Mr. Jolly, Dr. Rock. You guys take it, and we look forward to hearing reports in the very near future.
Thank you.
Mhm. Is there anything else that you wanted to share with us, sir?
Oh, yeah, I just had a couple of announcements for the board. And
Go
for
ahead.
tomorrow will be senior day. Senior day for our senior football players and cheerleaders.
Yep.
It'll be held at Maple Heights
Yep.
football field at 6:30. Senior day. We would like to thank Maple Heights School District for allowing us to use their stadium this year. Also on Saturday at 7 p.m., we have our second playoff game in the history of the school district. So our football, we only have one football team to ever go to the playoffs. We only played one game in the playoffs in the history of Warrensville Heights High School. On Saturday, we play our second game, which is, it would have been a home game for us, but it is a home game. It'll be played at Maple at 7 o'clock. If anyone wants to attend, please let me know so I can get tickets from Mr. Swift. I think they are letting 600 people in the game. So there's opportunities for people to come to this game on Saturday. Also, Monday, return to school. So we'll be starting our grades 1 to 3 coming back on Monday. So we look forward to that. On Saturday, 10/17, the groundbreaking for the new high school and middle school. And then tentatively, we received notice today that the open house for the new municipal building would be on October 26th. As we get more information, and I'll say tentatively because I don't think it's finalized, but I just want to get that on everybody's calendar, that tentatively the open house for the new municipal building, which includes the new Board of Education, will be on 10/26.
At what time, sir? Do you have a time yet?
I do not have the time yet. As soon as I get the information, I will forward it to the board.
Thank you. So we need to just email you if we are interested in attending the game Saturday, and I'm thinking Friday as well. But do we still have to get our names on a list to go to the
No.
football games?
No. So this Friday, they are this Friday. We don't play Friday. We play Saturday. Tomorrow is the senior night. I don't believe we need a ticket for that.
Okay.
Stadium. And then on Saturday, just there's tickets that will be issued for the game.
Understood. Okay.
Yeah.
My misunderstanding. I'm sorry.
And then last but not least, issue 76. I just want to remind the community and public of issue 76. It does not raise your taxes, or it doesn't raise anyone's taxes. It provides us $1.8 million, and it keeps the momentum that we've established over the last 5 years. So I just, anybody watching, community members, please just look at our fact sheet on our website. And it tell you everything you need to know about issue 76, which is no new taxes. This levy has been passed every 5 years since 1990. So it's something that the district really depends on, and it's doesn't cost any additional money.
All right. Before we put a motion on the floor to adjourn, I just want to thank the board for a great meeting tonight. We had two great guests providing us with good information about our new construction. It is just so exciting in Warrensville right now with everything that we've got going on. And I'm just very proud of the work that this team has been able to do to move things forward. I have to say, they talk about people being movers and shakers, and I think we've done some moving and shaking around here. So just, we'll continue the collaboration, we'll continue the awesome relationships, and we're just gonna keep this thing moving. We used to have a cheer back in the day called the Tiger Train, and right now we're revved up. Mr. Jolly is sitting there as the engineer, and we're taking this thing right on down the road. So with that, if I can have a motion on the floor to adjourn Wednesday, October 7th, 2020 work session school board meeting.
Madam Chair, I move that we adjourn October 7, 2020, our work session meeting.
May I have a second?
I second.
Thank you. It's been moved and properly seconded. Everyone have a wonderful evening. Thanks very much again to Steve and Sean for joining us, and for everyone who joined us via our YouTube channel. Have a good evening, have a good weekend, and stay safe. Oh,
See you guys later.
bye-bye.
Bye, guys.